Welcome to another episode of Chad Sports Talk. You don't know my name's Chad. Take a dive on sports, and welcome to my NFL Week 4 recap video. We go over the this past weekend of NFL action from last Thursday to all the way to last Monday night, including the stop out in London, and go over how my picks did in this previous week, and try to see if I could actually do better than my 8 wins, which seems to be so far my season high. Also forewarn you, there will be a rant in this video. It's going to be quite early, and you might know why. But before diving all this madness I'm about to dive into, let's go ahead and give me a thumbs up, especially like the content I provide you. It really pleases you two guys. It help put this channel out. You also subscribe. I love y'all review my work. I love y'all for doing that. Not many of you subscribe. This costs you a dime. Helps me provide more entertainment value for you. Alrighty. Well, looking over what I did last week, I did really well. I said last week I went with my preseason picks for the weeks and did not change them at all. I ended up winning 10 games, which was pretty good. And a couple of them were actually somewhat close that I could actually probably win some more if certain plays went a certain direction or certain quarterbacks and offenses actually scored touchdowns instead of field goals. I mean, that's how that kind of transpired, and there's a lot of meltdowns again by certain teams and some other questionable calls. But let's go ahead and just dive into last Thursday night when you had the Miami Dolphins taking on the Cincinnati Zebras. I'm sorry, the Bengals. Yes, they wore their white helmet with the black stripes. Now, if you saw my review of the helmets that some of the teams are going to do, like the alternate helmets and throwback helmets, I saw on Twitter before that the Cincinnati helmets look like zebras, and I can't get that out of my head. So it's the Cincinnati Zebras for one day, taking on the Dolphins. And the main thing that kind of comes out of this game is Tua Tagovailoa. And I'm going to get my rant in now, so bear with me. We all know last week he had that where he got pushed, his back hit first, and his head bounced off the turf. Which, you're not being people going to take two things out of it, but you can still get concussed in that type of action. And players get hit and get knocked out all the time. This is just the nature of the sport. But the problem is when he sat up, he shook his head. He stood up, shook his head, and then stumbled to his knees to get him back up to a drop again. Now, he went through all the concussion protocols last week and then came back in that game, and they were saying it is a back injury. I call BS on that. That is not a back injury. I've had lower back injuries. You don't shake your head and drop to a knee or lower back injury. You can't stand straight up with a lower back injury. That's a sign of a concussion. Plain and simple. And I'm not a doctor, and I can see that. But they cleared him. Now, players are going to do things to make sure they're able to come back in the game, especially after getting concussed. But the independent doctors failed him. His coaches failed him. His players failed him and let him go back out. Now, he had a great game and led to a huge comeback win against the Bills. So, then he had a short week. Then he plays Cincinnati. He gets thrown on the ground again. And the image is horrific. Initially, I thought his fingers got crooked, got broken somehow, until I saw the replay a couple times. When you get thrown in your head and your fingers start doing this, like a cockroach, or you spray with Raid and they start tensing up, that's neurological issues. Plain and simple. Now, the Dolphins, he took him out, and he never returned, which is a good thing because he went to the University of Cincinnati Medical Center. For some reason, he got released, and he flew with a concussion. Now, the NFL Player Association already initiated an investigation into the whole incident after the game against Buffalo. And there were scheduled interviews after Thursday's game to figure out what happened here. Now, that lets you know that player safety is not the forefront like they claim it to be. No, we're going to wait till after the game. Sorry, do your game. Tua should not have played against the Bengals, period, dot. I don't really care your stance on that one. He was concussed after taking on Buffalo, plain simple. His actions, his hit there was atrocious. Now, Coach McDaniels is saying that I take the player safety to the utmost responsibility, and once again, I throw the BS flag on that one too, because if he was said that, he would not put Tua in, had Tua come back against Buffalo, nor have him play this last Thursday. So I'm hoping Tua is fine, and I'm sure he will be, but I'm hoping there's no long-term effects. I understand football players will probably get that anyways, just because of the nature of the game. Reasons why so many people love this game. It's just the brutality that comes with it, and some of the hits. But yeah, the whole organization failed Tua. There's my rant. Sorry for that. So let's go ahead and get back into this one and go over what happened with Cincinnati. Now, I went after Cincinnati in this one, even though Dolphins were the undefeated team. Now, I don't know, because maybe, something that, the Cincinnati going to New York, beating the Jets, getting a little swagger, a little confidence, maybe things start gelling a little bit, and be able to scheme properly to be able to handle Miami's defense, because Miami's defense calls up a lot. Now, you saw that with Baltimore, saw that with Buffalo. So they knew they had opportunities to exploit, and they did enough to exploit. They didn't have to get too creative. Their defense actually kind of showed up. Bridgewater wasn't any better than Tua was. And since they ended up winning 27-15 to even out their record and bring the Dolphins down to earth. Then we'll head out to London, England, where the Vikings were raiding once again. And they were taking on the Saints in Tottenham's Hotspur Stadium, one of those brand new stadiums they built over there for their Premier League teams. The reason why I know that, because I actually lived some time frame in England, so I know a little bit about some of those illustrious stadiums they have built and they use. Even though I never went to that one, I actually went to Wembley when the NFL played there years ago with the Bears and Buccaneers, way before Tom Brady showed up. That was when Brian Urlacher was still playing in Chicago. Let you know how old I am as I readjust myself here. And I called for the Minnesota to win this one because the Saints, Winston's actually ruled out. So you had Andy Dalton still playing. Down in New Orleans playing backup, and he was just no. For most of the game, it was pretty much Minnesota pretty much in control, but they couldn't really get past too much of the offense. Even though Jefferson still had almost 150 yards receiving, but he did not get in the end zone, which is one of the key factors of the Saints defense. They were doing a lot of bending, almost doing the Matrix pose there. I mean, when they head into that final frame, it was only 16-14 Minnesota lead. So New Orleans was still in striking distance, and just weird plays and the quarter. And it wasn't for a double doink. That's right, the famous double doink. Man, Ridder's ruddy, ugly head once again. That it kept the Saints out, or stopped the Saints from actually trying to tie the game to send it overtime. And Minnesota escaped their raiding village pillage in England, beating the Saints 28-25. Now heading back across the pond, back home, and we're heading to New York where the Giants are playing host to the Bears. Here I picked the Bears because I figured they would be able to do just enough to give themselves a nice victory. Saquon Barkley was doing exactly what he needed to do. He had almost 150 yards on the ground, but no touchdowns. So the Bears were bending enough, but not breaking. But, there was just too much. Daniel Jones was very effective until he got hurt. Pretty much sprained his ankle. Had to get taped back up and had to get brought back out to kind of help revitalize it. But the Bears, I don't know. I don't know what this offense is doing. I know one thing it's not doing. It's scoring touchdowns. I mean, they had a great game against the 49ers, and great for them for doing that. But I think that's more of the factors of the weather that helped the Bears in that game. And they looked out of place. Justin Fields does not look comfortable in here. I don't know if it's the coaching staff, because now you go from Nagy to Ebers, so you go from a offensive-minded coach to a defensive-minded coach, but you already know the offensive-minded coach wasn't any good because he couldn't do anything with Trubinsky, but we all know what's happened with Trubinsky lately. Actually, we get to that a little bit later as well. The Bears could not score anything. He has no connection with the receivers. The running game is inept. The offensive line is like Swiss cheese. There's a lot of things wrong with that Chicago offense. Defensive-wise, they only coughed up 20 points. In fairness, not bad. Not the best, but not bad. But your defense can only do so much if they're always on the field. They're going to get gassed, and they will cough up big plays here and there. But the Giants was just way too much for Chicago as they beat them 20-12 to go 3-1 on the season. That's right, the men. Big Blue. 3 wins already. Head down to Hotlanta where the Falcons are playing host to Cleveland. And this was a very interesting contest between the two. The Falcons jumped up early, 10-0. Cleveland tied it up, heading into the halftime. And just kind of back and forth a little bit. Chubb had over 100 yards and a touchdown. Marcus Mariota was doing exactly what he needed to do, being somewhat efficient. Jacoby Brissett tried his best, but still threw an interception. And Atlanta was able to edge out Cleveland 23-20 to get them to 500. In Atlanta, it's just one of those things, but unfortunately they lost Cordell Patterson. So we'll see how that offense transpires moving forward. Now head to the Big D, where it stands for Dakless, because Dak Prescott's still out. But no problem, because also the Big D stands for defense. That defense is amazing for the Cowboys. They're playing host to the Washington Commanders, another easy opponent for them. And they made Carson Wentz life a living hell, as per usual. You should know this, being a former Eagles quarterback. Cooper Rush did exactly what he needed to do. A little over 200 yards passing with 2 touchdowns. CeeDee Lamb, almost 100 yards receiving with a touchdown. It was just efficiency on the Dallas offense and the ability to shut down teams by the Dallas defense. Now, note, not really played anyone tough. So I'm not completely sold on these guys yet. The next big test is against the Rams, who have their own question marks as well. But until they actually play someone tough, I'm not highly sold on them yet. They do this every single year as they run through their division and beat these low-quality teams, get in the playoffs, and get trounced. So I'm holding my reserve, but that defense is right now looks Super Bowl caliber. I will put that out there. Micah Parsons should be in conversation for MVP. I doubt it, but he should be in there. Then we head to Detroit, and wow. This game here was one of the ones that I got wrong because I thought Detroit could actually beat them. And Geno Smith is actually playing better than what Russell Wilson is. So I think Seattle got the better end of that one. In this game, you did see DK Metcalf get carted off. But if you follow his Twitter feed, That's because he had to go poo, and he couldn't do the whole clinching walk to make it back there in time because he had a turtle head poking out. When you you gotta go, dude. And if you know if you can't make that walk, yeah, you better get it right. But if Detroit could play defense, my God, Jared Goff had a fabulous day. 378 yards passing and 4 touchdowns, and still lost. Even without Swift, they still lost because they couldn't stop the run. Rashad Penny had over 150 yards and 2 touchdowns for the Seahawks. And that was it. If Detroit could play defense, I think their record could be reversed. I really do. I think even Dan Olasky even said that one too. But Seattle's able to hold off a late charge at the end, which is what Detroit does, and beat the Lions 48-45. Indianapolis. Indy. Name after a dog. But I don't know. There's something wrong with the Colts. Our third quarterback in 3 years. He's a very capable quarterback. Matt Ryan is nothing to doubt at all. Actually, they're part of the fourth or fifth quarterback in that many years. I mean, Matt Ryan still had over 350 yards, two touchdowns. I mean, there's nothing spectacular. Derrick Henry is starting to pick up steam. He had over 100-yard rushing and a touchdown. Tannehill was actually doing things Patrick Mahomes style, doing weird sidearm throws for touchdowns. I don't know. It's the defense that failed to really corral Tennessee in the beginning. They stopped them in the end, but Tennessee's defense stepped up and kind of shut everything down. I mean, it was 24-10 at the halftime. So they gave plenty of opportunity for Indianapolis to come back. They're only able to score a touchdown the entire second half. Couldn't do it. Fell at home to the Titans 24-17, and Indianapolis season is just going the wrong direction. But, the only time we'll tell, see what happens with Indianapolis if something actually kicks in. But I know the GM right now is not happy, or the owner, is not happy with the GM or head coach at the present point in time. And I can understand why. I mean, especially with the GM, how many times you going to go through your quarterback and still have the same results? Something has to give. We went to the city of Brotherly Love, where Trevor Lawrence and surprising Jaguars are coming to town, take on the undefeated Eagles. And Jacksonville just jumped out early on them. It was up 14-0, and that was it. That was not enough after that one. Philly right off 3 touchdowns in the second quarter, failed an extra point to get the 2014 lead. And Trevor Lawrence turned it over 5 times to include an unprecedented 4 fumbles. You cough the ball that many times, you probably will end up losing. Philadelphia's one of those very good defenses. And the Philadelphia offense is just efficient enough. They get what they need, and they maintain. They don't try to blow you out, but they do just enough to make other teams kind of worry about things, because Jalen Hurts, passing-wise, wasn't all that great. He had an interception. He had over 200 yards and an interception. Sanders in the backfield for him had over 130 yards, 2 touchdowns, so it was the running attack of Philadelphia that got you. So it's kind of hard to pinpoint which focus of Philadelphia's offense you're going to go after. Okay, we're going to shut down the passing attack and minimize the damage, which basically what Jacksonville did. The Eagles ran them over, and that just kind of lets you know what things would kind of do with that Philadelphia's going to be very hard to beat, and that game against Dallas in a couple weeks should be really, really fun to watch. Then we head into Pittsburgh, where the Steelers playing host to the Jets. Here I went with the Steelers because I thought, it's the Jets. Come on now. It's been a while since the Jets were good. Zach Wilson's making his return to the starting lineup. And because of TJ Watt not being there for the defense is not the same. They don't have the same tenacity for some reason. It's not a strong steel curtain. It's just, they're just there. And with that being said, I mean, they end up taking Trubinsky and getting pulled. And Kenny Pickett made his debut. He was chucking it. You check one to Claypool. Claypool should have had this. Failed to catch it. I think I'm getting an interception. He had at the end of the game. He threw a Hail Mary at the end in the end zone and he got intercepted there. So Kenny Pickett's got the arm strength more than Trubinsky does, and I think once he develops some type of relationship with a couple of receivers, I think it should really help out. But the offensive line in Pittsburgh is like rusted metal, and the Jets were able to hold on and beat Pittsburgh 24-20. But 2-2 on the season, and leading Pittsburgh to possibly having their first losing season, and really ruining my pick for him. But once again, it's still early. Head down to Baltimore, and this game here, this will make people upset, literally. Baltimore had a lead on Buffalo. They had Buffalo's number. Sounds familiar? Did the same thing against Miami. And they were up 20-10 at half. It was coming up all Ravens. The Ravens were just in command. 7 at halftime. The roles switched. Buffalo came out, scored 10 points. Got up to 20-20. Tied up the game. Went into the fourth quarter. Now, this is where things get interesting. Now, it was a 4th and goal. They still had some time left on the clock. Now, do you kick the field goal, take the points, or do you try to go ahead and run a play? And if you don't make it, you pin them deep in their own zone. They'll put them like on the 2 or 3 yard line, something crazy like that. And then you let your defense take over. Now, looking at this aspect, I think looking at the field, looking at the layout where it's at, and looking at the time frame on the clock, which is, it was under 2 minutes, I believe, and you have Lamar Jackson, I'm like, all right, well, Buffalo's going to figure out it's going to be a run. The way the offense set up, it was a pass. So Buffalo spread out, and Lamar, instead of running it in, threw it. Now, he had a guy open in the back corner of the end zone temporarily, because once he threw, you saw the safety come sprinting across, intercepted, and of course down in the end zone. So now the ball comes out in the 20. So now Buffalo's not pinned down. Now, during this play, there was a questionable roughing the passer call that probably shouldn't have been called. That gave revitalized the Bills moving down the field. Now, later on, they were actually running the ball. English hard today. And right towards the end, now, in hindsight, you would want to let him score the touchdown so that way you get the ball back, you can march back downfield, try to score a touchdown on your own, because you've proven you can do that. But they tackled him. Buffalo's able to run out the clock to very minimum seconds, kick a game-winning field goal. That was it. Buffalo ends up coming from behind, beat Baltimore 23-20. This is 2 games now that Baltimore's had led on AFC East possible playoff teams and lose them both. This is going to affect their end of the year positioning-wise, because if like Baltimore and Buffalo are the top 2 teams in the league with identical records, Buffalo gets the number 1 seed because they already beat Baltimore. So now it looks like Baltimore's got to play an extra game in the postseason if they can make it there. Their defense right now, I don't know. There's something about that defense they they don't have that Baltimore swagger that you normally notice with the defenses recently, with the Baltimore Ravens defenses. They're not a feared unit. It's like you let Lamar burn off his energy in the beginning of the game, he runs out steam towards the end, it seems. I mean, I don't know. It's just something just not gelling right now in Baltimore, and there's question marks. Maybe letting Hollywood Brown leave was kind of a bad idea. Having a true running back in the backfield to kind of offset Lamar Jackson's also not helping you matters much either. And Baltimore's having issues as well, and that AFC North is kind of a tight race. Now we head down to Houston, where I was smoking crack when I made this pick. No, I've never smoked crack a day in my life. I picked Houston to win. I expected Houston to get their first victory, and the Chargers came in and just smacked them around. I mean, Houston defense had no answers whatsoever for the Chargers. Eckler was having too much fun. Herbert had almost 350 yards passing with 2 touchdowns. I mean, the only bright spot is Pierce for the Texans. He had a huge run. They ended up tying the game at 7 apiece early in the game. Yeah, over 130 yards overall. But it was just too much of the Chargers in that second quarter, and they never looked back. They ended up winning 34-24. The game wasn't close, even though the score looks closer than what it is, but it was all Chargers all day long. And they just took the L like the champ. Then we head out to Charlotte, where the Panthers are playing host to the Cardinals. This is where which Oklahoma quarterback was going to get to 500? Is it Kyler Murray or Baker Mayfield? And I used to say Baker Mayfield could be the answer in Cleveland. I really did. I used to say he was capable enough to be that steady quarterback that they needed. Even during last year with all of his fiascos and whatnots on the field, it's because he got injured. And he's playing injured, so he wasn't 100% when he's doing that. He's down in Charlotte. Sam Darnold's got, he's no longer in the equation because he got injured. Let's just say Baker. I think it's even worse in Charlotte. Now, that could be because of the head coach rules. I think his time frame in Carolina could be coming to an end. And he might be finding his way back to college soon. Maybe he goes to Wisconsin. I don't know. But the Carolina team just, I mean, they were up 10-3 at the half. After that, it was nothing but Kyler Murray and Hollywood Brown. That they did just enough what they had to do. They ended up beating Carolina 26-16 and getting 2-2, putting themselves back in the race in the NFC West. Then we head up to Green Bay, where Bill Belichick will make legendary coach going to a legendary location. I mean, that's what the whole aspect was on TV. Mac Jones has rolled out. So Brian Hoyer, the journeyman, who's made his own third stint in New England, by the way, is making the start. And he ended up getting hurt. So Zappe, the Western Kentucky quarterback that got drafted late, had to make his debut. Aaron Rodgers kind of doing some things you kind of do. Aaron Rodgers even threw a pick 6, which is very rare. I think he's only had 4 in his entire career. So New England was doing everything it could possibly do. I mean, it had a running game. Its defense was doing just enough to try to stifle the Packers, which you can't do for too long because it's Aaron freaking Rodgers. And Zappe actually threw a touchdown as a rookie quarterback. He's the first rookie quarterback to do that this year. Who would have thought that? There was a touchdown pass Rodgers threw that the receiver just failed to maintain control when he hit the ground. And, I mean, he has a relationship with Randall Cobb. He also has getting one with Lazard. There's another one that's, I think Dobson's his name, that he's starting to develop, and they're starting to look pretty good there. But Green Bay struggled. The game went into overtime. So they're playing a third-string quarterback and couldn't knock out the Patriots in regulation. Goes into overtime. Both teams had their winning possession, one possession each. Green Bay is driving, pretty much ran out the clock until allow Mason Crosby to kick a game winner. That's it. Green Bay beats New England 27-24 to go 3-1. But even Aaron Rodgers goes, yeah, there's some work we need to do. And we got to Vegas, where the Raiders, looking for their first victory, welcome them into Denver, their in-division rivals, Denver Broncos and Russell Wilson, which doesn't look like the Russell Wilson of old. Like I said earlier, Geno Smith is actually doing pretty much the same stuff that Russell Wilson is doing right now in Denver. Geno is doing that in Seattle. But I called for the Raiders to win this one. I said this is the game they needed to kind of go, this is our mark. This is where we need to make the stand. This is where we need to turn around our season. We got Denver coming in. We need to make it, and we need to emphasize a few things. And did they ever? Jacobs had over 140 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. Devontae Adams had over 100 yards. Didn't get to the end zone, but he made his presence known. Russell Wilson's trying to do his part as well. He's still throwing 2 touchdowns, but it was too much of Raiders. The Raiders defense actually capitalized on the fumble and ended up scooping in for a fumble 6. And the Raiders got their first victory of the season, beating Denver 32-23. We headed to Tampa Bay for that Sunday night action between Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, the rematch of the Super Bowl a couple years ago, and the same location as well. And of course, I went with Tom Brady. I can't go against this guy a lot of times, even though I wanted to go Kansas City. But I thought the Tampa Bay defense would provide more of a fight than it did. I forgot, Patrick Mahomes got the cheat codes for Madden that he put him in, and he was just ridiculous. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. There was a play. They had him dead to rights. He escaped. Scrambled out to his right. Spin move. Heading towards the line of scrimmage. Going, oh, stopped, jumped up, and threw in the back of the end zone for a touchdown. I mean, what in the world just happened? It's Patrick Mahomes doing Patrick Mahomes things. I was watching this game, and I was cheering for Kansas City, even though I picked Tampa Bay. I was so happy to see, Kansas City Chiefs go back to the offense that people loved a few years back, and how they were able to rekindleize that without Tyreek Hill. And Travis Kelce actually, doing what he had to do, make those key catches, doing his little shimmies and those little dances in the end zone. And Kansas City just routed. I wouldn't really say routed, but they were just having so much ability to do what they had to do. I mean, every time they had the possession in the first half, they had a touchdown. I mean, that's what you want to do. Brady almost had 400 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. So Kansas City's defense is definitely still an issue. And I think Kansas City's defense relies on Kansas City's offense being the catalyst that people have to make errant throws and makes a mistake where the Kansas City defense is able to capitalize. But going up 28-17 at the half, they just didn't look back. I mean, even though Tampa Bay kept coming in, but it wasn't even close. It was Kansas City all day long. Tampa Bay was just throwing the points when they could here and there, but yeah, and Kansas City's got a couple of running backs that you got to watch out for. So Kansas City ends up winning 41-31. That's for my last loss of my picks. Spoilers. But like I said, I was happy to see the action Kansas City was doing, even though I wasn't the team I was rooting for. And then we go to Monday night action between the Rams and 49ers. This one I picked San Francisco. They always seem to play the Rams very, very tough. And Jimmy G actually loves playing the Rams in the regular season. He was 6-0 heading into this contest against the Rams. Pretty much like Tom Brady against the Falcons and the Cowboys, and Mahomes is another one that's like 9-0 against, I think it's the Raiders, I believe. The Raiders or Broncos, one of the two, another divisional foe. So it's just about playing in the division against your rivals. And even though the Rams have Sam Darnold and the 49ers offensive struggles last week in Denver, I still went with the 49ers. And they were just scoring touchdowns to the Rams field goals. I mean, that was the thing. The 49ers defense was bending a lot until they got right in that red zone and they shut them down where the Rams had to kick field goals. And then just a few plays here and there. And then towards the end, at the beginning of the fourth quarter, Garoppolo tried to throw to Kittle in the back of the end zone. He had one foot inbounds, the other foot was out of bounds, so they kicked a field goal, which, the Rams defense was, oh, good, great. We can actually get going here, and we can score a touchdown. Then Stafford threw a pick six, which gave the 49ers 24 points. And then they had the ball again. As he was about to get sacked, he was got his arm back. He hit the guy behind him, so the ball's like right there in the guy's face, and he like hits it, so it looked like a pass. It was the strangest thing ever. It looked like it was a pass, so they went out. And it had to be a fumble. 49ers got it. Went through the process again, but then kicked it back to the Rams. Rams didn't have enough time. 49ers beat the Rams 24-9 to send the entire NFC West at 2-2. So crazy. But there you go. There are my picks. End up going 10-6. Of course, I had to pick the Bears. I thought they could beat the G-Men. That was kind of bad. Detroit, if they actually played defense, they probably could have won that game. Indianapolis, there's just something wrong there. Same thing with Pittsburgh. And Tampa Bay, I actually went with Tom Brady and let me down. But hey, which game did you find most surprising? Which game did you enjoy watching? And like I said, I really enjoyed that Kansas City Tampa Bay game. That was outstanding. For Tua Tagovailoa, he's actually been ruled out for this upcoming week of NFL action, which is great news for him. Got to protect him from himself as well. But Tua's got to also protect himself from the organization. But yeah, that was a vicious. But anyways, once again, next week we have another game in London. We have the Giants and the Packers going at it back there at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And should be a very interesting game. And so I'll get those picks later on this week. Just let me know down below which game, this previous game, that you really enjoy. Which teams do you think are now the favorites for the Super Bowl? I mean, right now it looks like it's Philadelphia, and I think it's now really wide open race in AFC. I still say the Bills, but you never know. I mean, it's just right now you're not seeing any dominant teams, which is let you know that the parity across the league is at its utmost level. But when we're down making the comment, make sure to hit that thumbs up once again. You can also share this video with your friends and family. It helps promote this channel out. Once you subscribe, make sure you hit that bell notification. Let you know next time I post any more content on my channel. And believe me, there's a lot more content coming out in the next few weeks. Stay tuned for all that, and I will see you next time on Chat Sports Talk.